What is in the water that these 20 guys are drinking? Because they're all stunning. They're all beautiful. Hi, I'm Karen Booth, and I'm the author of Not So Fast. I was on a Zoom call with my editor, basically, went down her wish list of, I want this kind of book, I want this kind of book. And she'd mentioned 2 or 3 things, and I was kind of like, oh, that could be cool, not that exciting. And then she said, I really want a Formula One book. And I basically exploded because I love Formula One. I'm obsessed with Formula One. So I was just all over it. And that was really all it took, was the prompting from my editor. The last book that I wrote for Desire had two rival sports agents in it, but I haven't written a romance that was about an athlete. I did like writing about that only because Xander was kind of a lonely guy, even though he's got this great family and he's very connected to them. They made a lot of sacrifices for him to be a driver. It's a very expensive sport to get involved in. Some of these drivers start when they're like 5 or 6 years old. That was, interesting to just see someone who's been on this very long journey and it's finally paying off, but also you have a very narrow window in which to compete in the sport because then it's gone. Xander is definitely, he is an amalgamation of many drivers. There are so many, kind of varied personalities within that sport. And so it was fun to kind of pick and choose different qualities, whether it was personality or physical traits. For Mia, she just popped into my head. So she's a podcaster. She podcasts about F1. It's her favorite sport. So I could relate to her on that because we're both equally obsessed. I love the kind of fish out of water because that sport is very elite and it's a little expensive, highbrow kind of thing. And she's very much like, she's a jeans and t-shirt kind of girl and more about the nuts and bolts of the sport. But yeah, Mia just kind of popped in my head. On the most superficial level, it's like, I asked this question actually in the book, like, what is in the water that these 20 guys are drinking? Because they're all stunning. They're all beautiful. For me, though, aside from that, I got really into it because it's not like any other sport. There's only 20 drivers in the whole world. It's not just about who wins every race. There's always all these storylines of like, somebody comes in second and they haven't had that high of a finish in 2 years, or they've been battling if, they're at a new team and they're struggling with the car. There's always all these different storylines within the sport. It's kind of like reality TV, really. Balance is always a problem with romance because if there's a secondary storyline, whatever the structure is that brought the hero and heroine, in my case, together. Luckily, because Mia's a podcaster and she podcasts about the sport, it's all about her becoming more entrenched in the sport and meeting different people. And so it worked pretty organically, but it was definitely something I was aware of while I was writing. That's really hard because, it's funny. Everybody expects me to have a favorite driver and a favorite team, and I really don't. McLaren is probably my favorite team at the moment. Lando Norris is an amazing driver, and he's the only person who's been able to challenge Max Verstappen, who's been the driver's champion for the last 3 years and is probably going to get his 4th championship this year. So I guess I have to say McLaren. Drive to Survive is the best just because for anybody who has ever liked reality TV, it's these great 25, 30-minute episodes, and it gives you the chronology, and you learn the history of the drivers and of the teams, and you do get these kind of crazy behind-the-scenes just glimpses of what their lives are like and how unusual it is, because it really isn't like any other sport. If you love romance that has that, like The Hating Game, a lot of people compared it to The Hating Game, where you have that really intense enemies thing at the beginning. When they meet, it's just not under the best circumstances, and it's just so much like juicy, delicious tension. Anytime a heroine can kind of slowly break down a hero, kind of chink away in his armor, I really love that.